What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Los Legends with King Los. I hope everybody's doing well. I think this is part five or video five already. Um, the fifth episode, whatever you want to call it. Um, I hope all is well with everyone. I hope everybody got something to eat tonight and sleeping, resting well. Having a good time doing what you do, staying sober, hopefully. Um, I have a couple of people that have called in and asked me a few questions. They've emailed me, they've hit me up and asked for a little bit of advice and stuff. And I gave them the best advice I possibly could. One person was struggling with relapsing. And so I talked to him and let him know what was up and what was going on, that he could go to the Ark or he could go to any other facility that he wanted to go to. Um, so hopefully he did that, or hopefully he just found the strength within himself to, um, to make that decision and not go back to whatever it was that he was using or drinking or whatever. I hope that he stayed strong and stayed away from it. Um, Besides that, I want to get into just maybe talking about some more about getting these homeless people off the streets. I know that a lot of them are having trouble with health insurance and all that, and insurance just in general. I know that they are having difficulty getting access, and some of them, like when I was on the streets, my IDs and my socials and all that were stolen, and I had a real hard time getting everything back. And I don't know if somebody is out there committing fraud or what with my stuff, but hopefully not, but I don't know. Um, but yeah, I'd really like to make that one of the bigger issues here in Tucson is how can we possibly get a lot of these people that don't have health insurance, get them insurances. You know, there any way or a faster way to get them insured and get them off the streets and um, help them out with that, because I know that a lot of them, they might be they might be addicted to this, that, or whatever, but um, sorry about that. um, they might be addicted and struggling with drug use or alcoholism, but a lot of the people that are on the streets, they have mental health issues, and they have problems that sometimes weren't drug induced, maybe I should say. They weren't um, like it wasn't drug use that got them to the point where they're at right now. A lot of them have mental health issues. They have, like I said on my last video, um, schizophrenia, paranoia, and all that stuff is very. It's a tough thing to deal with. Um, it's tough to overcome if you don't have the right medications, and then I'm sure if you're using meth or coke or alcohol or anything like that, I'm sure it's just gonna make things worse. So I mean, what could we possibly do to get these people to, get them off the streets and get them somewhere safe and you know, help them with the problems that they're going through. I know that a lot of people are living uh, under bridges and in the tunnels and just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of, wherever they can make um, a camp or a home, for even if it's a few weeks to a few months. Um, they're trying to post up in the washes. They're trying to post up anywhere. And a partner of mine, he almost lost his life to sleeping in one of the tunnels. They were all in there, and I guess they flushed the tunnel out or something, or a storm drain or something, and They got washed out, and they got hurt, thrown out of the tunnel. Somebody almost drowned in there. They got caught under a bunch of trash. Somebody's dog drowned in there because they had him in a kennel, one of them little kennels in the tunnel, and he got caught under all that debris and trash that was in the, I guess, further back in the tunnel. And uh, we all tried to get him out and couldn't get him out, and that was messed up. I'm sad that happened. Um, I seen people get washed, just being posted up in the wash, to get washed out and lose everything they had, just a little bit of stuff that they do have. Um, they got washed out because they were clueless about, about a storm coming, and they didn't have time to move all of their stuff. Plus, I mean, I know it's their job, but the city always comes and tears down their camps, and you know, I wish it would just give these people a little bit more of a break. Um, it's hard. It's hard having to deal with stuff like that. It's hard, moving all your stuff and moving from place to place, and just not knowing where you're gonna go next. And like I said, a lot of these people don't have resources. They're on the streets. They're alone. They have no help. There's a lot of things that go on that it's out of their control, and they do their best to maintain and stay focused on pretty much just staying alive. You never know what's going to happen from one day to the next. There's shootouts out there, there's fights out there, there's so many different things, and there's people, and they're on the corner, and they're asking for help, and they're asking for change, and they're asking for something to help them eat that day, or maybe get a room to stay in for the night or something. But I would encourage everybody that is out there like that. There's so many different places you can go. I mean, the gospel is one, the Gospel Rescue Mission, ARC, of course. Uh, I don't know about Cornerstone. I never really heard too much about it. I barely heard about it the other day. I heard about a place called Avant. Um, and there's CBI, of course. There's a few different places that you can go and ask for help. I think, I'm not positive, but I think Goodwill takes in people. Um, I mean, I stayed, me personally, I stayed at the Gospel whenever it was really small. It was over there on close to the jail, behind that little corner store that was down there on Silver Lake, I believe. That was years and years ago. So, um, yeah, I stayed there when they were still putting the mats on the floor, and I don't know if they still do that or not, but I heard that the gospel has really changed up, and they've grown a lot. I never been to the new facility, um, but I've heard that it's really big. I heard that it's a great place to go and to get your life together if that's what you really want to do. Um, I know that when I got to ARC, I couldn't get uh above 200 pounds when I was in county. The food that they serve you there, and then I came out. When I came out, I had a lot of problems with my diabetes because all they serve you there is just starch and bread and pasta, and it's nothing but starch and carbs, and they try to say that it's a certain um, calorie count and all this and that, but it's nothing healthy. It's nothing, like it. I remember telling them, "Hey, I'm a diabetic. I need a diabetic diet," and they never did anything for me. I usually would just get the same trays that everybody else got, and they would just say diabetic on it. So what's the point of that? You know what I mean? Um, Nobody really wants to drink the water in there, but you have no choice. So that's just kind of where you're at. That's kind of, you just gotta stay there and play by your rules. If you get sick in there, then it doesn't really matter. They won't help you too much. I almost died in there the last time I was in there, just not even a month or two ago. Um, I almost died because they pulled a tooth out and it wouldn't stop bleeding. Well, they tried to say that I was drinking hooch, and they had all my blood and toxicology tests right there, and they didn't do anything about it. They were trying to put the blame on me. I know that I had two teeth that were supposed to be removed, and they took one out, and that one was completely loose. So I knew that one wasn't going to cause a problem. Um, they took that one out with no problem. It didn't even really hurt. And then the lady was like, "Oh, the one in the back is cracked." She's like, "I better pull it out before it causes more problems." And I said, "Well, that one doesn't hurt." I said, "That's fine. Just leave it alone." And she was just set. She was dead set on removing that tooth. And so she had to really get in there and yank that one out. And when she did, it wouldn't stop bleeding. So I went back to the dorm, and I noticed that the gauze they gave me just kept soaking in blood. And I was like, wow, I was like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I pull it out, put more in, pull it out. And didn't have no more gauze. Um, so I started yelling out of the door for help, and they just completely ignored me. And everybody in the dorm was banging on the door too, and they're like, "Hey man, this dude's leaking up here. Like, you need to help him." They let every other dorm out, and then they finally pulled me out they were doing medpass. And by the time I got down there and I asked for help, when I opened my mouth and said I need help, just like half a cup of blood just fell out of my mouth. Um, Even when they seen that I was bleeding, 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 the CO didn't want to call it. He was like, "No, I don't want to call it. I don't want to call it." And the nurse, thank God, she was like, "Hey, you know what? Fuck what you say, dude. Like, look at him. He's like literally losing color in front of me. Like, I'm calling it. I don't care what you say." If it wasn't for that nurse and the other one that was in there too, that they just called it and they completely ignored what that CO said, I would have been dead. Um, they wheeled me down to the bottom. Then I could hear them. They were holding my head up because I was so weak from so much blood loss. They were holding my head up, and they were all talking about their weekend and what they did and this and that. And I'm sitting there bleeding out. Um, and then one nurse or one CO told the other CO, it was two females. I couldn't see who it was because I was fading in and out. Um, one CO told the other one, said, "What happened with him? Did he get into a fight?" It's like, no. Uh, he got a tooth removed, and then he went back to his cell and he drank hooch. And I started kind of laughing with the last bit of energy that I had. I started laughing, and I was all like, and they were like, "Oh, what? You need to say something? What's funny?" I said, "You guys are funny." With every last bit of strength that I had, I said, "You guys are funny." I said, "Because I didn't take shit that you guys didn't give me." I said, "And I didn't drink shit either." And he said, "Oh, we're not trying to say this. I just heard you say that I was the one that was drinking hooch when there's 9 other motherfuckers in the dorm." I'm not saying no names. I'm not snitching. I'm just saying if they found something in there, trust me, it wasn't mine. And so, and like I said, they had all my blood and toxicology tests and everything that they pulled so much blood out of me after I had lost so much already. Um, so they could have checked that, and they never found anything in there. So they were just trying to get the blame off of themselves. Um, on the way to the hospital, oh, the ambulance wasn't even there. They said, "Oh, we fucked up. The ambulance isn't even here." Um, they said it's gonna take another 15 minutes, so I sat there and bled for another 15 minutes. Um, they finally got me into the ambulance. I was fading in and out, literally blacking out, falling out, choking on my own blood. Blood was coming out of my nose, coming out of my mouth. They had to hold my head up like this while they had strapped me down so I couldn't sit up to spit the blood out. They had strapped me down and they were holding my head up like this, and I was choking on my blood. And the kid that was in the back of the ambulance, he didn't even know how to turn on the suction hose to get the blood out of my mouth. On the way to the hospital, they had to, the dudes that were driving had to stop the ambulance, jump in the back, show him how to turn it on, jump and suck the blood out of my mouth, jump back in the front and take off again. So I just kept on bleeding that whole time. I remember looking up at the light kind of seeing a face. I couldn't see perfectly what the face looked like, but I could see that there was a face there. Um, I faded out 3 times in the ambulance. They couldn't find a pulse. Excuse me. Sorry. Um, they couldn't find a pulse, so they're like, "Hey, we lost him." And out of nowhere, I popped back up, and I'd start gasping for air. Um, 3 times I did that, and then got to the hospital. They're asking me to squeeze their hand. I was so weak I couldn't squeeze their hand. They're asking me to push my foot down. Couldn't do that either. Um, they took me inside the hospital, strapped me down there, handcuffed me, and the head nurse came in and he put something in my tooth and almost instantly stopped bleeding. But my whole front of my smock, down my pants, my socks were soaked in blood. Had a t-shirt on, a white t-shirt, and I was soaked in blood. Plus 2 bags that they had while I was sitting there asking them for help. They had wiped the blood out of my mouth and filled up 2 bags with gauze like that. They never gave me a blood transfusion at the hospital, and they never gave me a blood transfusion. Um, and they wouldn't give me anything to eat. And I sat there. There was 2 COs that were guarding me. I don't know why they needed two. I was so weak and I was handcuffed and everything else. I don't know. There's just 2 people that wanted time and a half or something. Who knows? Um, one of them started preaching to me. He started talking to me about God, which I don't mind. So he was telling me, "Well, you don't believe in God." And I said, "Yes, I do." He goes, "No, you don't." He goes, and I said, "Yes, I do." So we bickered back and forth about all this stuff. And he knew his stuff. He knew some scriptures, but he didn't know that I knew God in the Bible the way that I do. And we talked back and forth, talked back and forth. Um, at the end of this, I had fallen asleep because I just couldn't argue with this dude anymore. I wasn't trying to argue with him to begin with. He was the one that was trying to argue with me, saying that I didn't know God and I didn't love God and I didn't have God taking, control of my life and this and that. And this dude had no idea who I was. I've never talked to this dude before. Um, at the end of it, I said, I know God. And I said, I know there's something watching over me. I don't know what it is. I don't know who it is, but I know it's here. I said, because I seen it. The whole time I kept looking over to the right. They were sitting over here. Kept looking over to the right. And I seen like a foggy mist. It was weird. It was really weird. I thought it was because I had lost so much blood. It was just kind of, just hanging out right there to the right, just from the top of the ceiling, like almost to where the bed was sitting there, just about right there. Kept looking at it. I was like, why the rest of the room ain't foggy like that? Looking back at him, like, I look over, the rest of the room ain't foggy like that. And I'm like, like, okay, well, I'm just gonna take a nap. Maybe I'll be better. Who knows? Took a nap, and I woke up, and we kind of started in on each other again. He was like, you need to read this Bible verse in this. I said, okay, I appreciate that. I said, you really want to help me out? I said, I got a court date coming up. I said, pray for me, you know? He goes, I will. Bet. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Um, so the doctor and the head nurse came back and they checked on me and they said, we've never seen anybody bounce back the way you just did from losing so much blood. We've never seen anybody bounce back the way you did. I sat up and I was just felt better. I was weak. I know I was weak. I lost a lot of blood. I didn't quite feel like myself, but I know that I felt good. enough to leave. And I told him, I said, man, just send me back. You know what I mean? I said, I got court tomorrow. I got to go to court. I'm not going to miss court just because I'm going to be sitting right here waiting. You know what I mean? Waiting for you guys to say that I'm better, say that I'm okay, or I'm fine. You know what I mean? Just send me back. They said, well, we got to do one more test. We got to do one more test. And once we do that test, then we're going to let you go. It's a bet. They did the test. I was fine. They finally brought me 2 cups of pudding, cup of jello, and a small cup of soda. And man, I just, you know, starving. Been hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Um, so they walked out. And tell me something. Right when they walk out, right? They walk out. And I'm looking over here. Me and him kind of bickered a little bit more about the Bible here and there. You know, again, I wasn't trying to argue with him. He was kind of being very, very persuasive and kind of know it all type, you know. I wasn't mad at the dude. I'm just kind of annoyed, you know, that he was telling me that that I didn't know what I know and I wasn't close to God the way that I was and all this. Um, but as soon as the doctor and the head nurse walk out, right? They stand, they sitting right there on their phones. I don't know what they were doing. And I look over and this mist, y'all, that I saw, this little fog, this little white fog, start moving out the room. And I'm looking at it because it hadn't moved the whole time I was there. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, I'm better now. You know, I drank some soda and I ate the pudding and, you know, I'm rested up a little bit and I'm feeling better. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is that? And it's moving slowly out the room. Tell me why, when that thing went by the paper towel dispenser went off. Like something had passed, something had motioned it. And it just went out the room. And I turned around, I looked at the COs like this, and I'm like, before I even said anything, I was about to say, hey, look at that, look at that, look at that. You know what I mean? Like, what was that? Did you guys see that? Didn't even get to say anything. I look over, the dude that had been talking to me about the Bible the whole time, he goes, like this, at his phone. He goes, I know. He goes, I seen it. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, how how did he see it? He wasn't even looking up. Tripping. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's little things like that that make you really think and really have you questioning what is it that's watching over us, taking care of us. It's got to be something, right? I believe it is. Till next time, y'all. God bless you. Rest, have sleep, have peace, and just maybe get some kind of higher power in your life. If you already have it, more power to you. And like I said, I don't care if it's Buddhist studies. I meditate. I don't care if it's uh, Jehovah's Witness, Catholics. I don't care what you pray to. I don't care what you believe in. Have that higher power and see how you'll connect. And just believe that your life can be better. Put out the positive vibes, positive energies. Y'all got this. Till next time, King Los, Los Legends.